So we can have our final speaker of the first session, who is Tom Allen Stevens, who is, I think, a well-known, most people probably a following farmer journalist, but more recently founder of the British On-Farm Innovation Network. And Tom's presentation this morning is going to be on farmer-led research into peas and beans.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thanks very much for inviting me to talk today. I'm going to be talking about the Nitrogen Climate Smart projects in a minute. But first of all, before I do, I just want to get an idea of who we've got in the room here. So if we've got any farmers here who are involved in on-farm research, could you stand up? Anyone? Oh, this is going to be a tough audience. Oh, well done, fantastic. Now stay standing, please. Stay standing. Join in if you're a farmer and you've had a spray miss and you thought, oh, that's a little bit interesting. Anyone here? Okay, if you're a scientist who's involved in on-farm research or field research, please stand up. That's good. Yeah, we're getting a few more now. That's fantastic. If you'd call yourself a farming innovator, so you're involved in the supply chain or a student or something like that who's interested in field research, would you like to stand up? That's good. Fantastic. Well done. Brilliant. And finally, if you're just a little bit curious. Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. Look at this. We have a room full of on-farm innovators. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, what is BOFIN? It's the British On-Farm Innovation Network. I started about 3 years ago. It's to represent farmers who do their own on-farm research. So I'm a farmer myself in Oxfordshire, and I noticed I've been a journalist as well for the past 25 years. And I noticed that a lot of the farms, I only go to visit less farms actually in the country, and you get to realise that a lot of those farms are doing their own on-farm research, and to a certain extent they're sharing it as well. So I set up BOFIN to find interesting projects to get them involved in, particularly in sort of free commercial tech, and get a scientist onto the farm. So that's really what we're about. We've got currently the membership is about 700, and about 55% of those are farmers. I mean, it has to be said. Obviously, our focus is on farmers and on-farm research. In the last couple of weeks, actually, our membership has swelled quite considerably because we're doing a bit of a citizen science project at the moment, looking to gather slugs for research, which I might touch on later. And then we've actually gathered 100 gardeners and allotment holders who are taking part in the project, but perhaps we'll touch on that later. So it's not just about farmers, and if you're not farming, we'd very much welcome you to join the network. So as I say, it's for the farmer with the curious mind, the sort of person who, if you see a spray miss, rather than thinking, oh, damn, I've missed it, whatever, you think, oh, what's growing there? And it's, it's not a spray miss, it's a learning opportunity. That's what it's about. We're trying to get more of an emphasis on science. There's a bit of a myth, a misnomer, if you like, that on-farm research is unscientific. And that's what we're looking to challenge here, that it can be scientific, with the right support. We're looking to push the boundaries as well. There's some really exciting technologies coming through, and I'm sure, if you've been to various events this week, you would have seen some of those in the various events that are taking place this week. I mean, we are on the threshold of the fourth agricultural revolution here. Perhaps we've already started it. And farmers should be absolutely at the forefront of that. And that's what we're about. We want to be leading that revolution and bringing others into it as well. So it's a culture of sharing that we've got as well. That's a very important part of what we do at BOFIN. It's all about sharing that information. And I keep saying this to farmers that, the knowledge that you have has value. Let's make the most of that value. And you can only do that by sharing it, by collaborating. So that's what we're about. And we're also trying to get payment for on-farm trials. Most of this research work that farmers do, they don't get paid for it. They do it because they're interested. And indeed, the farmers that I work with, that is still very much the case. Their core reason for being involved in these projects is because they're interested in it. But at the same time, it has a public value. This is a public good, the work that they're doing, and they should be paid for it. And so I look actively to get money for them, to reward them for their work. So the nitrogen efficient plants for climate smart arable cropping systems, really catchy title, that one, shortened to NCS. So this is a £5.9 million 4-year research project. It's kind of part of the same ones as you've heard about already today. It's a sort of complementary project within that. We've got 17 project partners. It's led by PGRO. And we're involving 200 UK farms within this project. It's a really exciting project to be involved in. So what are our aims? Well, it's about, that we've got very, very bold aims actually, to reduce the CO2 emissions from agriculture by 1.5 million tonnes per year. I mean, that's 54% of what we can actually physically achieve within farming. So that's quite a bold ambition. And how are we going to achieve that? Well, what we're looking to do specifically is to raise the area grown to peas and beans from currently 5% to about 20%, and then replace the amount of imported soya used in livestock feed by about 50%. Now, just to sort of qualify that, we don't believe that's achievable within the 4-year span of the project, but what we want to do is to demonstrate it through the farms that we're going to be involving in this project, that we can do this, that it is achievable. So it's very much steered by science, and we have got a lot of scientific research involved in this, and that's what we're realizing, that it's not like the science it isn't there. The research has been done. In a lot of cases, the research into peas and beans and the benefits that can accrue on farm has been done. It just hasn't been implemented. And that's what we're looking to do with this farmer-led platform, to bring that science on farm, put it in the hands of farmers and realise those benefits. And it's not just about the benefits for the environment, it's about benefits for productivity too. And we reckon that there's cost savings of over £1 billion a year that the industry can accrue from better use of peas and beans on farm. So how is this going to be done? Well, we're working with 200 farmers. We're creating a community of farmers coming together. And the first step with these farmers is to get them carbon baseline. And then we're going to be introducing on-farm trials that they'll be doing. And those trials, we're just getting underway with recruiting those pioneers, as we're calling them, to do those trials at the moment. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And the idea is to implement some of this scientific research that we've got within the project partners. So just to touch on some of that, some of you may know about the Centre for Sustainable Cropping, which is run by James Hutton Institute. And that's a 42-hectare site looking at all sorts of different rotations, bringing pulses into the rotation. And there's all sorts of different permutations that they've done from this. There's a lot of data that's come out of it, and all about the benefits for the crop yields as well as the soil biodiversity, greenhouse gas emissions, how that's more sustainable and so on. It's about translating those rotations into what you can achieve on farm, is what we're trying to do there. And then also we've got within the consortium access to some of these facilities like this, the CHAP plant phenotyping facility and soil health facility at Stanfield. Looking to do some, in these big pots, soil pots, looking at sort of some of the work that's been going on in there as well. I'm not going to go too much into the science because I'm aware that I'm a farmer talking to a scientific audience. You know far more about these things than I do, if I'm honest. But what I will talk to you about is the role of farmers within the project. And this is a new aspect of getting farmers actually involved in doing the science on farm. So a lot of field research goes on. Not often is it the farmer who's actually doing the science. So we're making pulse pioneers and we're paying them to do this work, to do the science behind it. And we've identified 3 roles that they actually perform. So the first one is the trial hosts. And this is the role that traditionally most farmers have within on-farm trials. That all they do is they just say, there you are, there's my crop, you look after it, you scientists, do your stuff. But you get access to the data, as well as the farmer will look after the crop for you and manage it in the way it needs to be managed for the project. Then there's the trial monitor, and this is the new element, if you like, that we are introducing systems to allow farmers to actually do the monitoring, and quite complex monitoring in some cases on their farm. And it's a matter of making sure that we have a protocol that farmers can practically achieve within their busy days. But at the same time, if it's data that is absolutely mission critical, should you be leaving that in the hands of farmers to collect? And so, we're looking to find that balance between what farmers can actually achieve and get done, but at the same time, making sure that the objectives of the project are being carried out. And then the third role, which is quite an interesting one, is project ambassador. And this comes back to this knowledge sharing aspect, and it's really, really important for the dissemination of the project. And so one of the key roles that our trialists are performing is as project ambassador. And we try to give them the opportunities to do that role effectively. So come to face-to-face events and things like that. And we know when farmers get together, and if you've ever been in one of those situations, round the table, whatever, the ideas that come are just, they're gold dust, they're brilliant. But there are precious few opportunities to do that. So how can we increase that interaction? And that's what we're looking to do, do more online activities and things like that. I'll come to that in a minute. But importantly, it's about bringing them, about paying them to do these roles. And so we have a payment plan. And as I say, this isn't why they're involved in it. They're involved in it because they're interested in the project. But it's everyone who is involved in it says, but the payment is a nice recognition for what I'm doing. So let me tell you about the Pulse PEP, which is a really, really important part of this project. And this is the community that we're setting up to really resonate around the findings of the project. So at the centre of it are our Pulse pioneers. By the way, we're working with ADAS to create the Pulse PEP, if you like. They're very much, you may know about the Farm PEP, this has come from the Farm PEP. And it's very much, it's a knowledge resource that ADAS has set up, and they're developing it specifically for the Pulse PEP. So at the centre of it are the Pulse pioneers, and they're also the project partners, the ones who are closest to the project. And what we want to do is get that knowledge out into the innovation community. So these are the early adopters, the people who are most likely to take up the findings of this knowledge first. So what we do is we bridge that with the Pulse PEP, and it's a community. It's a community that welcomes everyone in. It's not just farmers, but anyone with an interest in pulses, and it's free to join. And the idea is this is a space where you can share your views. You may have specialist knowledge, and it's a safe space to share those views, and it's where they can be recognised and acknowledged. And that builds into this knowledge community, and we want to make the most of that. So it's all about sharing that information around the Pulse PEP and out into the innovation community to get that knowledge recognised, to get it to grow, and to enrich the community, not just the Pulse PEP community, but the innovation community as well. So we've currently got 340 members in the Pulse PEP. We launched it at Cereals when the project was launched, of which 176 farmers. So now we're actually launching our online discussion platform at CropTech. So if anyone's coming to CropTech, please come along. If you join the Pulse PEP, and you can come along, we've actually got a launch event. There's going to be a lunch as well, attracts you, where we're going to be launching it. We have a forum now on Farming Forum, and there's a special area of the Farming Forum for the Pulse PEP members. Anyone can see the conversations going on there, but you can only join it if you're actually within the Pulse PEP. I mean, I don't know if if you know much about the Farming Forum, if you've used it much. There's an awful lot of dross on there. We don't want the dross, we want the good value information. We want to bring that all together. And that's the idea of the Pulse PEP community, to bring that knowledge together, and you can uprate it as well. And that's an important aspect of this. If there's a good comment on there, if there's a good thread, there's good discussion, you can uprate it. The more it's uprated, the more you contribute to that, your rating goes up. And this is where the more it's uprated, the easier it is to find. So what we're looking at here is as this knowledge grows, and as it's appreciated by farmers, the most valuable knowledge will be easiest to find on there. So you can go on there and say, how can I grow beans with oats or something? And it'll come up with all the information. That's our vision for what the POS is going to become. And that will sit alongside the knowledge hub that ADAS is developing on Farm Pet. So that's what we're doing. We've got a couple more minutes, I think, 2 more minutes. I just want to talk a little bit more about some of the projects that we're involved in, all funded by Innovate UK. Harvest weed seed control. This is something we're doing with NIAB actually. Looking at one of these, it's a seed control unit that sits on the back of the combine. We know that it controls about 98% of the weed seeds that goes through it. What we don't know is what's coming in the front, and that research hasn't been done. So we're working with Will Smith here at NIAB, who many of you will know on that project. We're also looking at slug-resistant wheat, which I talked about earlier. This is a really interesting one. It's one of the Watkins collection that has been found to be consistently spurned by slugs at trials at John Innes Centre. And I came across this, and I was told that farmers wouldn't be interested in this. It doesn't yield. It will flop all over the place. And so I went to my members. I only had 150 members at the time. 30 of them said, really, really want to do this work. When can we have the seed? At the time, there was only 40 grams of seed. So over 2 years, they multiplied it up, and we've now got it in the ground. We're looking at it. They've been doing other trials, as I say, at John Innes Centre. We need 2,500 slugs to look at the 84 recombinant inbred lines that they've now got. All of this work would not have happened had it not been for farmers showing their interest. The research, the potential for this is immense, and it would not have happened if farmers hadn't shown their interest. So that's one of the really important things to get about this. We've also got another slug project that's kind of grown from this, and this has brought together 2 projects, Slugbot, which is about going around with robots in fields looking for slugs, detecting them, and then spraying them with nematode, and also some patch development work from Harper Adams University. Bring those 2 projects together to get a service. We're also working with small robots on getting the big data, the big data problem. And one of the big problems that they've got is they gather so much data in the field. It's actually physically really difficult to get these terabytes of data back to where they're needed. So we're looking at a project around that as well. Another really interesting project that we're starting on January the 1st is Truth. So thriving roots underpin total soil health. There's a Strayus in there. I can't really get rid of it, but anyway, it's about addressing 2 sort of fundamental questions, if you like, about what farmers need from their soils. What's the optimum root architecture, and what role are soil microbes doing in feeding that? We know so much about what's going on above the ground and the biomass and so on. We know precious little about what's actually going on below the ground. So that's what this project is all about. The idea is that we want to make a platform, a farmer-led platform, to really gather knowledge about that. And we're working with the likes of University of Nottingham, John Innes Centre, with some really interesting plant roots, weeds that they've got coming through. But we're also working with PES Technologies, and I don't know if you come across the soil nose, if you like. So this is a thing that smells soil volatiles, and it can tell you an immense amount about what's going on in the soil. And we're developing that sensor for farmers as kind of a proxy measurement for what's going on beneath the soil. So the idea is to get a platform as a service that can, explore a little bit more about what's going on in your soils. This is another project. Now, we haven't got funding for this one yet, so I'm not entirely sure why to talk about it. But this is about, I'm really excited though, because it's about getting the gene edited crops, precision bred organisms that we can now grow in our fields. We know that there are quite a lot of them that are sitting in the glass houses, ready to come out into the field. This is about bringing them into the field, into farmers' hands. Not only that, we're going to multiply it up from 1 kilogram of seed to 100 tons, process it, make it into products and see how they perform. It's a really, really exciting project. We can get funding for it. And it's bringing out some of the key really exciting precision bred organisms that are coming out about this. I haven't really got time to talk about it, have I? Anyway, that's enough from me. Those are my details. Please do talk to me afterwards, ask some questions later about the project. As you can tell, I'm really, really excited about where we're going with these. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.